Hello everyone, once again from the very much anti-woke United Kingdom, and today we are talking about wokeness in regards to woke capitalism and also the theory of go woke, go broke. Now, I don't even remember when this got popular, but it feels to me it was started by anti-SJW nerd channels talking about their favourite properties going woke and then going broke. And basically now they feel like it has been proven time and again. Basically, any capitalist corporation that goes woke will go broke. Recently, of course, there was the insane backlash to like Bud Light, people like going to shops and destroying crates of Bud Light because it had a trans woman as part of an advertising campaign. And what's so funny about all of this is I'm saying woke capitalism, but at the same time, it is just capitalism, right? I'm not a capitalist. I'm an anti-capitalist. The people crying so much about wokeness ruining like capitalism or something, they are all self-described capitalists. And a lot of them believe in the free market to some degree. So if you believe in the free market, going woke capitalism, woke capitalist advertising campaigns, what's wrong with that? Just, don't buy the product if you don't like wokeness. But somehow these people think like it's not a corporation has done so much focus testing to see if its advertising campaign will work. It's not them choosing to pursue wokeness because they think it will help their brand and help them sell. No, apparently they're just giving in to the woke mob because people like me have so much influence on corporations that if Starbucks doesn't change its logo to a rainbow flag every June, I'm going to go absolutely crazy. And they're so terrified of that. Of course, they have made the calculation that wokeness will affect their consumers in some regard. And they've come to the conclusion that that doesn't matter because the benefits outweigh the costs. And isn't that meant to be what capitalism is about? You make a product, you advertise it however you want, you try and get consumers, and it lives and dies by that. But these guys actually describe themselves as capitalists and somehow think these advertising campaigns are like an affront to, I don't know, American values or something. But also what I wanted to do in this video is not just talk about the hypocrisy of capitalists complaining about woke capitalism, even saying like Halliburton are going woke, which is so funny. I also just want to show that go woke, go broke doesn't actually make any sense because a lot of these companies that go woke, like I was saying, they make more money because they know they're going to make more money by going woke in the first place. That's why they do it. As Mr. Robot said, corporations don't have hearts. They don't have feelings. They don't care about anyone. They don't care about the LGBT community. They don't care about marginalized groups anywhere. They care about making money. That's literally why they exist. So if they go woke, it's to make money. But all of that coming up for you today in the video. Please like the video and in the comments let me know what is the most insane like get woke, go broke, I guess, story they use. My favorite is often when they use movies. So do you remember when like Lightyear came out, didn't do so great, and Top Gun came out and did really well? So to them, the only reason Lightyear did bad was because of wokeness, because of like a same-sex kiss in the movie. And Top Gun did good because it was very non-woke. And that's obviously what audiences are asking for these days. All I want is non-wokeness and I'll go see a movie. Obviously completely disproved by those terrible Daily Wire movies just both being awful and no one really watching them either. But then you also have like very popular woke movies like, I don't know, Blade Runner, Fight Club, all that stuff. So it doesn't make sense, but let me know down in the comments. Also follow me on social media at the Kavernacle on Twitter, but also on Instagram and also now on Blue Sky too. Check out my Patreon. I'm trying to build up as many $1 to $3 patrons as possible. And the benefits include getting access to the Discord server, getting access to my Nintendo Switch friend code, and getting access to exclusive content. Also, check out the subreddit and check out my second channel down in the description. So conservatives don't even really seem to know what they mean by like wokeness, right? Because it could mean liberal identity politics. It could mean some sort of like political ideology like socialism. It's basically these days a catch-all term for stuff conservatives don't like, I guess. But one thing I wanted to focus on before we get into the capitalism is woke imperialism, because this always makes me laugh so much. And the difference between a liberal and a leftist is a leftist will be like, abolish the CIA, where a liberal will be like, more queer CIA agents or something like that. And that is true. But basically, you've seen this a lot recently with Republicans saying that the US military is trash because it's woke. Because in the US military, they accept trans people, gay people, all that stuff. And because of that, the military must be a joke. It must be terrible, despite the fact it spends so much money making it like the best military on earth. It just must be terrible because of wokeness. And you see this with like backlash against it. And I just think it's so absurd. The problem being is you don't have a problem with US imperialism. You have a problem with woke people doing US imperialism. And that's what obviously is so funny about the capitalism as well. You don't care about, you know, the unethical practices of capitalist corporations. You don't care about that stuff. You just care about the wokeness. So if you guys remember this, Fox News outraged army recruiting video features lesbian wedding. The US Army has released a new animated video featuring the story of a current Army corporal with two mums who gets married after one of them survives a car accident. The video comes as part of the Army's new recruitment campaign, The Calling, that tells the diverse story of 5 different service members. The video also comes after the CIA faced backlash for woke recruitment ads as the two agencies look to expand their applicant pool. And I've looked at both these videos in a separate one. The CIA one was really funny though.
I also marched for equality. I like to think I've been defending freedom from an early age. When I was 6 years old, one of my moms had an accident that left her paralyzed. Doctors said she might never walk again. But she tapped into my family's pride to get back on her feet, eventually standing at the altar to marry my other mom. With such powerful role models, I finished high school at the top of my class, and then attended UC Davis, where I joined a sorority full of other strong women. Sure, I'd spent my life around inspiring women, but what had I really achieved on my own? I needed my own adventures, my own challenge. And after meeting with an Army recruiter, I found it. A way to prove my inner strength, and maybe shatter some stereotypes along the way.
So, obviously, we can appreciate how absurd woke CIA is. And the one thing I will say, yes, I do prefer the normalization of marginalized groups like the LGBT community in society. If that takes the form of them being accepted into the US war machine, like, I guess that is a good thing. I would rather that than them all face like discrimination. But at the same time, like, I don't think anyone should be in that in the first place. And I kind of feel the same with woke capitalism as well, in that, yes, it is very cynical on the corporation's part, for the most part. It depends what corporation. Like, Sega is pretty good for LGBT stuff, mainly because they let LGBT employees lead the projects they do, where a lot of these corporations, it's all just complete, like, corporate washing of their unethical practices, right? So that's the reason they do it in the first place, to woke wash themselves, make them more palatable to the general public, who's increasingly accepting things like the LGBT community. It's very cynical, and I don't think you should support corporations who literally do that to hide. At the same time, I would rather that than the alternative, I guess. I would rather the normalization of marginalized groups just so we can have a better society. If that takes the form of corporate woke washing, and so be it. But conservatives don't like this at all. They seemingly hate capitalism if you start to advertise yourself as a woke corporation. And I love this article. So the American conservative, woke capitalism, wokeness comes to Halliburton, the ultimate triumph of woke capitalism. Dick Cheney's old company embraces radical chic. It's just so funny. So today I got an email from a reader who confirmed that wokeness well and truly has conquered corporate America. The reader works for Halliburton, the largest US provider of oil field services. This is the corporate giant that Dick Cheney used to run, and which has been vilified by liberals since the Iraq War began, because he pretty much did the Iraq War as a favour for Halliburton. Their customers are all oil companies. They sell nothing directly to the general public, according to this employee. I tell you this so you know that there is no possible public relations benefit to what Halliburton's senior management has just done, said the reader. At this point, the only thing that really makes sense is that this is essentially an extortion payment. He forwarded to me an image of company-wide message from CEO Jeff Miller raving about a recent company CEO town hall on diversity, respect, and equality. The speaker was Michelle Silverthorne, equality advocate and founder of Inclusion Nation. Miller, who sits in the same chair that Cheney did, ask everyone in the company to review the 10 rules for allyship and justice that Silverhorn shared. And here you see it. So rule 1, start with respect. Respect others because of who you are, because of the deep moral code inside of you that says every person is worthy of equal value, dignity, and respect. Seems pretty good with that. Talking about people with privilege, thinking about how you can use your time to change the systems of inequality. Then saying the road to justice is long, you're going to stumble on the way. Make sure to support others when they stumble and be courageous enough to accept correction when you make mistakes. American Conservative going on. That was the handout that a successor to Dick Cheney passed along to every employee with the request that they read over it. How about that? Radical left ideas of social justice are embraced and encouraged at the most senior management levels at Halliburton, the company that Dick Cheney used to run. Woke capitalism is triumphant. So that article was basically saying that like woke ideology has completely taken over corporate America because they have these like seminars from outside people talking about like equality and how you can be a better ally to like the black community or just any marginalized group or whatever, right? And they're saying, well, there's no actual financial incentive to do this because of what Halliburton is. So there's no point even being woke in this context because it's not making them more money. But also the other element is what these corporations want to do is foster an inclusive environment so they can hire the best people without barriers too, to make them as much money as possible, right? Halliburton internally in its US offices gets a massive reputation for discriminating against people. Then you're not going to be able to hire the best people possible because even people who aren't in that marginalized group might avoid your company because it has a terrible reputation, right? So it's all about PR, even though it said it's not in this level. That's why these corporations conform to the woke ideology, because they realize it's a calculated decision on their part. They realize if they are more inclusive, it's just better for business. It's better for hiring people, makes your company look better, which although doesn't have a very tangible economic value, is all part of like advertising yourself. So it's pretty hilarious. This guy is mad that, oh yeah, Dick Cheney's old company has gone woke. But it's only woke in terms of like liberal identity politics and like the bare minimum of like legal respect for people. Like what is the alternative to some of the things I read? Just like start discriminating against people based on race, like actually break the law. But if woke means more than just like liberal identity politics, if it means like left-wing agendas and stuff, then Halliburton clearly is not a woke corporation. None of these corporations are woke, especially Western corporations, like American corporations. They literally benefit of a global system of inequality, exploit that for their own gain, and in the case of Halliburton, literally be complicit in like an illegal war to access the oil fields of another country. If Halliburton is involved in like another invasion like Iraq, let's say Iran for example, but the CEO has like they them pronouns, doesn't make what they're doing woke, does it? Same way I feel like about woke imperialism, but it's the same thing, right? If a drone operator is transgender or comes from another marginalized community, they're still doing the work of US imperialism, which is fundamentally like not woke. So conservatives who are capitalists, you have to have some more critical thinking skills. Like, why would they do this? Do all these corporations want to pursue the feminist agenda and like indoctrinate your children and stuff so they all become leftists? Or do they want to make as much money as possible? And are they responding to market trends and social trends? You guys know the answer. But on that note, let's talk about this a bit more. So an article I read today on The Hill, woke capitalism is simply capitalism and it's good for business. The backlash against so-called woke capitalism is fundamentally anti-capitalist. I wish it was. Companies that prioritize positive environmental and social impacts in addition to profit are responding rationally to the market and to a business case that's been proven over decades. It's hypocritical and short-sighted for political leaders to coerce the market to align with their interests, rather than what's good for people, our economy, and the planet. In his annual letter to CEOs, even BlackRock chairman and CEO Larry Fink wrote that stakeholder capitalism is not about politics, it is not a social or ideological agenda, it is not woke. It is capitalism, driven by a mutually beneficial relationship between you, the employees, customers, suppliers, and communities your company relies on to prosper. Stakeholder, sustainable, conscious, woke, whatever you choose to call it, this is the free market in action. Aligning and adapting to efficiently create value in changing market conditions. Businesses constantly analyze market data and trends to inform decisions about what products to offer, which customer segments to serve, and how to stay competitive. Profit is important, but it's not the only data point for smart business leaders. Maximizing revenue and minimizing costs, waste, and risks are key for investors. Insulating companies from risk, whether systemic, reputational, or financial, and competing for labor and finite resources are also part of this complex calculation. Market participants are increasingly recognizing the value of acting in alignment with a broader set of stakeholders. Critics should ask themselves, why have more and more businesses integrated environmental, social, and governance criteria into their models over the last decades? The answer is that they are simply aligning their resources with the stakeholders' interest, which is efficient, profitable, and both economically and environmentally beneficial. The fact is that a triple bottom line models have been proven successful in a meta-analysis of more than 2,000 studies. Nearly 2/3 of these studies showed a positive correlation between ESG and financial performance, while less than 10% showed a negative correlation. The hypothesis: these firms are innovating, adapting to the market, and competing for resource and talent. What's more, many consumers prefer businesses that demonstrate impact or align with their values. A recent PricewaterhouseCoopers customer loyalty survey found that younger consumers, Gen X, Millennials, and Gen Z, are more likely to intentionally support like-minded brands. These generations collectively account for 62% of the US population, a huge consumer market that will only increase spending as they age and build wealth. Businesses must be able to compete freely for this market share, including by demonstrating social and environmental impact that attracts customers. So like I've been saying, there's just proof that, consumers want this from their companies, right? Not everyone is myself, cynical anti-capitalist, or some reactionary conservative who just hates wokeness. A lot of people don't even really think about these things. So if Starbucks puts up pride flags, if these companies change their logos to rainbow versions and stuff, to a lot of people, they like that, right? And because they're younger, they're more progressive, and they accept marginalized groups like the LGBT community, or they're more conscious about the environment, or about, anti-racism and stuff like that. So for a corporation, you're looking at the up-and-coming market. The boomers are dying out. The more anti-progressive element of society is dying out. Well, who's next? Progressive young people and the people who follow them. If you don't follow that market trend, you're probably not going to compete with everyone else basically going for the same market as you. And yeah, of course, it's fine to be cynical about that, no matter what political persuasion you have. But the problem with conservatives is they're not cynical about woke-washing capitalism, right? They just don't like the wokeness. The capitalism is fine. The unethical system of global capitalism, the inequality of capitalism, and how literally destroying the planet, they don't care about that. They just go hysterical about seeing a trans person in an advert for a company that is terribly unethical, right? They're super hypocritical because they don't want to see that. They even want to pass laws against it. And that's why they love Ron DeSantis going against Disney. But that shows the hypocrisy. They don't like the free market. They claim to be free market conservatives who love capitalism, but they don't actually like it. If you're a corporation who goes woke, well, that shouldn't be allowed according to these people. And when we talk about consumerism, I do love the difference in how they approach boycotts, right? So a lot of us didn't buy or play Hogwarts Legacy because of J.K. Rowling making money off it, right? It was labeled a boycott, but there wasn't really any organized movement to not buy this game, and the game sold really well, right? Just for a lot of us, we felt better about not buying it. Conservatives made fun of us. Conservatives say oh, you're such babies, I'm going to buy 5 copies. I made a video about it, getting so many comments about, oh, I'm going to buy a copy for everyone I know because it's annoyed you and stuff like that, right? So they don't respect our boycott, but when it comes to Bud Light, them being total babies and going hysterical, right? They'll do an organized boycott against Bud Light that seems to have had some tangible impact and stuff. So that exposes their hypocrisy even more in that they do like boycotts. They like boycotting Bud Light. They like burning their Nike sneakers. Oh, but when it comes to BDS, I'm an anti-Semite for boycotting goods from Israel. If it comes to Hogwarts Legacy, then I'm just some crybaby SJW who's way too sensitive. I support consumer boycott as a right of everyone. Do it if you want to, for whatever reason you want to. But to me, it just completely exposes the hypocrisy of this. How many people at Daily Wire who have called BDS racist were boycotting Bud Light? Do they consider themselves hateful bigots? So on that note, I want to talk about how go woke, go broke doesn't really make any sense because it rarely happens. Like that market data said, there is a way stronger correlation with being inclusive and diverse and having a better performance in the market than a negative one. And that seems to be true based on everything that conservatives boycott. So Miles Klee wrote an article for Rolling Stone. Companies that get woke aren't going broke, they're more profitable than ever. So let's just go through some of them listed here. So the first one, Keurig. So in many ways, the Keurig kerfuffle of 2017 was the blueprint for the get woke, go broke phenomenon. The slogan had yet to be coined, but the sentiment was certainly there. If you recall, a Republican candidate named Roy Moore was running to represent Alabama in the Senate when he was accused by multiple women of sexual misconduct. Fox News host Sean Hannity cast doubt on the allegations, warning viewers not to rush to judgment against Moore, which caused Keurig to pull ads for their coffee makers from his show. This was right as the Me Too movement was taking off. In response, Hannity's fans called for a boycott and started smashing their Keurigs for social media. In a since-deleted tweet, Hannity shared one video commenting, "Love it." So how is Keurig doing now? The parent company, Keurig Green Mountain, acquired Dr. Pepper Snapple Group in a $18.7 billion deal in 2018, forming Keurig Dr. Pepper Inc., the third largest beverage company in North America. This behemoth's annual gross profits have swelled ever since, reaching $7.3 billion in 2022, a nearly 5% increase from the previous year. United Airlines. Always hostile to corporate initiatives that have a whiff of affirmative action, conservatives were predictably incensed to learn in 2021 that United Airlines planned for half of its upcoming pilot trainees to be women and/or people of color. Piers Morgan sneered that they tried to recruit blind pilots next to tick another box. Tucker Carlson whined that United execs were ideologues suffering from an incurable brain disease called wokeness, arguing that they no longer prioritize pilot ability or safety. Cut to the beginning of 2023, and United was reporting fourth quarter 2022 profits of $843 million, beating Wall Street expectations. It also gave an optimistic forecast for the months ahead, seeing a high demand for flights. So now let's go to Nike. Much like Disney, Nike has courted the ire of Red America in various ways. So Nike anti-woke activists take grave issue with Nike spokespeople. A few years ago, it was Colin Kaepernick, who protested racial injustice by kneeling for the national anthem at NFL games. This week, they were horrified to learn that Dylan Mulvaney, after tarnishing Bud Light, is now promoting Nike sports bras and leggings on Instagram. If the haters want to take Nike down for seeking the endorsement of a trans woman, they'll have to try harder than they did in 2018, when the Kaepernick collaboration had them burning shoes and ruining socks by cutting the swoosh logo off them. The campaign was a smash hit, delivering a spike in sales, and Nike has continued to top expectations for revenue growth, with a 2022 fourth quarter net income reaching $1.44 billion. So one more, Kellogg's. In 2021, Kellogg's sparked a fury by releasing a limited edition together with Pride cereal in partnership with the Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation, which would receive $3 per box sold. The box contained rainbow berry hearts coated in edible glitter and bore affirming messages about preferred pronouns. The Christian fundamentalist and anti-LGBTQ American Family Association accused Kellogg's of an effort to push being gay to children and demanded a boycott. These mobilizations failed. Kellogg's is still outperforming market predictions, even with inflation. Net sales climbed to 12%, to $3.83 billion in the fourth quarter of 2022. So there are just some nice case studies of how go woke, go broke basically never even happens, and consumer boycott doesn't really matter when it's just targeted at like a massive global corporation. I mean, more focused boycotts like BDS style ones on like Israel or, you know, South Africa in the past do obviously have an impact, but these like random ones against anything seem to not work. And I don't mind them personally in terms of like just feeling better about not buying something you disagree with. It's just so funny that these conservatives just hate the free market often. Like they hate this stuff because they believe like Kathleen Kennedy is pushing a feminist agenda with Star Wars. All that corporate execs are always thinking about like the bottom line because that's how they make money. That's how they get their bonuses. If they just all wanted to push diversity at huge detriment to these companies, they wouldn't be in a job long. And that's what conservatives don't really understand in this instance. And it's just like pretty ridiculous because the criteria for wokeness is so stupid. The argument doesn't make sense. Of course, the Top Gun versus Lightyear one is the funniest one to me because those films probably aren't even competing against each other. But apparently people go to the cinema and be like, what film should I watch? Oh, I'll watch Top Gun because it's anti-woke. I'd never watch Lightyear because it's woke. Like, that person like really doesn't exist. And a lot of these people who do this are either like really religious or just like terminally online conservatives. But yeah, I'm not supporting the corporations. Many of the corporations I listed to you are terrible, and I fundamentally disagree with them, even if, you know, they use union labor, even if the people working for them are paid okay, because it's still like a massive, powerful corporation. Most of these will never be held accountable for any unethical practices, and basically their entire obscene wealth, like I'm reading you like billions and billions of dollars for quarterly profit, is just built on the backs of workers. A lot of that is just stolen wages because, yeah, I oppose corporations, not because they're woke, but because capitalism is unethical. Woke washing is just designed as a marketing ploy for you. It's just designed to get people on board who maybe don't think about the unethical aspects of it. There is so much money put into marketing. Like, think about Mad Men and just think about that and think about what that would be like today. Think about how much like surveys they do, how much tech is involved. Think about how much money they pour into advertising, how much money they feel is to gain by pursuing woke capitalism and pursuing this woke agenda of diversity and inclusiveness rather than just being outwardly conservative and bigoted, because they know one will make you more money than the other. That's why you do it. And I've even seen this bizarre conspiracy that there's like communists running corporations and stuff like that. They're not doing it because communists are the CEOs of the biggest corporations, just doing it for money. And you can be cynical about that, of course. I am very cynical about it. But at the same time, go woke, go broke literally is not true in the slightest. Anyway, that is it for the video. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. And if you made it this far, thank you for watching.